So is the laundry done?
Yep, check.
Towels folded?
Yep.
Shirts pressed?
Yep.
Groceries bought?
Yep.
Dinner prepared?
Yep.
Paramania radio turned on? Well?
Uh-oh.
Don't let this happen to you. Paramania's here. Join us at paramaniaradio.com.
Do you like ghost stories? Want to hear about some of the haunted homes and locations that I've investigated? Tune in for the latest in paranormal news and guest interviews with me, Mr. Haunted, on the Haunted Chronicles, Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, only on the Paramania Radio Network.
Hey guys, I got the perfect song for the show. What do you think about this?
What the hell is this?
Dude, this is not the boring psychic.
Oh, okay, how about this instead?
Take out the papers and the trash. This isn't it. Or you don't get no spending cash.
No. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah!
The party is live every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, with a twist of metal. Melissa Bruce is the heavy metal psychic.
Only on Paramania Radio. Be there.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Paramania, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
You are listening to Paramania Radio.
Your hands. It's the little things sometimes. Sometimes the world is just gone dark. Sometimes you're praying for a spark. It's the little things sometimes. But if you lift your eyes, see it in a different light. Just a cut up in the open sky. Let the rain fall away, 'cause today is beautiful. Lift your eyes, see it in a different light. Just a cut up in the open sky. Let the rain fall away, 'cause today is beautiful.
Good evening, everyone. This is Peg Jones and Sprinkles Nixon on the Web Weavers. Welcome. Tonight we have a guest. His name is Garnet Schulhauser, and he has written 3 books, and he will be talking about them tonight. I am an angelic life coach, and I am an author and Akashic Records practitioner and Reiki practitioner, and also teacher. And my co-host, Sprinkles Nixon, will now let you know who she is.
Thank you, Peg.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Sprinkles Nixon. I'm co-owner of the Off the Cuff E-Zine electronic magazine on the internet, and I am a psychic. I'm a medium, a empath. It's just whatever I can get my hands into, I'm into it. But that's me, and I'm just so excited about the guest that we have here today. And I really like. Come on, Peg, bring him on. We need to get this on the roll here because there's so much that we need to talk about here.
Okay, well, Garnet is a retired lawyer who lives near Victoria on Vancouver Island, with his wife Kathy and their little dog Abby. After practicing law for many years in Calgary, he retired in 2008, and his first book was Dancing on a Stamp, and that was published in 2012. Since the release of his first book, he has been busy with signing tours and speaking engagements, and has also written 2 more books, and he will be talking about them. Welcome, Garnet, to our show tonight.
Well, thank you for having me, Pagan Sprinkles.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I'm so excited to get on with this because it's a fascinating journey, and it just seems to continue on for you as each book is coming out. So I'd like to kind of get started with your first book, Dancing on the Stamp, and explain to our listeners, exactly, this fascinating journey. It's absolutely awesome.
Like how it started. I think that's the most awesome.
That's always a good place to begin.
Yes.
Sure. It is. Yep, at the beginning.
Well, it all happened, as you mentioned, in 2000. Actually, it was in 2007. I was still practicing law, corporate law in Calgary. And I went for a stroll one sunny afternoon in May. And as I was walking down the street, all of a sudden, seemingly out of nowhere, a homeless man jumps in front of me and stops me in my tracks. And he looked like a typical homeless man. He had long, stringy hair and a straggly beard and dirty, slept-in clothes. But instead of going around him, I stood there transfixed because he had these amazing, dazzling blue eyes that were seemingly penetrating deep, right down to the depths of my soul. And I felt that I sensed that he knew everything about me, everything I'd ever said or done in my life, which was surprising because we'd never met before. And at the same time, his eyes were basically sending me this wave of pure, unconditional love that was infusing my whole body with an amazing sense of peace and security and well-being. It was an amazing feeling. I've never felt anything like that before. And so I stood there quite enjoying the basking in the gaze from this homeless man. I was like a deer caught in the headlights. I don't know how long I stood there, but after a while, he broke the spell by saying to me, "Why are you here?" Then he quickly disappeared into a nearby store. Well, I went in there to find him, but he wasn't anywhere to be seen. I walked up and down on the street outside the store, couldn't find him anywhere. He had disappeared into thin air. So the very next day, I came back at the same time, same street, hoping to find him again. And after walking up and down for a while, I finally found him sitting all alone on a bench. And I went up to him and I said, "Who are you, and why did you stop me the other day?" And he said, "I'm a soul just like you. I'm here to answer your questions and to help you on your journey." And that was the beginning of a dialogue that I had with this man that went off and on for the next several months. And I found out early on his name was Albert, and that he was actually one of my spirit guides in disguise. Oh. So that was quite astounding for me. And his first 3 appearances in front of me as the homeless man, he appeared in physical form. After that, he was just a voice in my head, and we communicated by telepathy. And when I asked him why he had appeared to me as the homeless man initially, he said it was his way of easing me into the conversation. Because had he just started talking to me out of the blue as a voice in my head, I likely would have thought I was losing my mind. And he was right. It was a good way for him to introduce himself to me. And so that was why he showed up as the homeless man. And it was very effective. He had this all planned out. So our dialogue was really quite amazing because he answered all the big questions in life that I'd been asking myself for many years. Questions that every adult on this planet asks themselves at one point or another. Questions like, who am I? Why am I here? What is my life's purpose? And what happens to me when I die? And he answered all those, plus many other questions, in a way that was quite startling to me because I was raised as a Roman Catholic. So a lot of what he said flew in the face of what the Christian holy men had been preaching for centuries and what I had been taught as a child. But his revelations rang true to me, and I had no doubt right from the beginning that he was who he said he was and that he was telling me the truth, the real truth, and I was very comfortable with that. And then he told me, after the first few conversations that he wasn't here just to satisfy my curiosity, but he wanted me to write a book about his revelations so that they'd be available to everyone. And so that resulted in my first book, Dancing on a Stamp.
Okay. Well, how did that name come about, though? Dancing on the Stamp. What?
Well, that's a good question. I've been asked that many times. How it came about was that at one point during our first dialogue, I was complaining to Albert about something that wasn't going right in my life. And he said to me, he said, I'll tell you what your problem is. He said, imagine that the world here is like a big, beautiful ballroom. And you're standing on some gleaming hardwood floors with sunlight streaming in through the stained glass windows. And the band is playing amazing dance music. And everyone around you are up dancing. They're swirling around the whole ballroom, getting to know every corner and crook in this beautiful environment that we all find ourselves in. And he said, but you spent too much time on one spot, like you're wearing leg shackles, and you need to break free of your shackles and quit dancing on a stamp. So that phrase stuck in my mind, and when it came time for me to pick a title for my first book, I said to him, would Dancing on a Stamp make a good title? And he said, yes, absolutely, go for it. And so that's why my first book is called Dancing on a Stamp.
That's wonderful. If I may ask, how old were you when? Because this was your spirit guide that came through for you, and in this most fascinating way that what you were able to accept. How old were you then? Because a lot of people seem to search and seek out. How come I don't know my guide? How come I've never got any instincts of a guide, that kind of thing. So a lot of people it varies with. So I'm just curious about how old were you when you first came?
I was 57 when I first encountered Albert. Before that, I had no idea that I had spirit guides. I'd never talked to any of them. And so this was completely a surprise for me, a transformational event. And so it happened. So until then, I was just a typical button-down, straight-laced corporate lawyer who never talked about spirituality or religion or anything like that. So this was just an amazing transformation for me. And shortly, within a year after I met Albert, I just retired from my law practice because I felt that it wasn't really very relevant anymore, and I knew that he had come into my life to send me off on a new tangent, on a new path in my life, and that I should really forget about my past in terms of practicing law and move on to my new career as such as a spokesperson for Albert and an author, and so that was so I made my decision that I just had to quit practicing law and move on with my new path in life, which I did. And
that's cool. And I bet that you, before you met Albert, I bet you didn't even think that, or even want to know about a guide, or even think that you could have a guide either. Like it just wasn't, like something that you were looking for at that time or any other time.
No, you're quite right. I wasn't searching for my guide. As I said, I didn't even know if I had guides or what spirit guides really were. I was looking for answers to all the big questions in life, but I didn't know really where they were going to come from. And so all of a sudden, out of the blue, my answers. I got all my answers from this homeless man who just sort of popped up in front of me one day on the street. So it was all quite amazing.
It was like you were chosen instead of you were being looked for, it was like you were chosen by him, not you, searching. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and quite clearly, when I asked Albert about it, he said that, of course, all this encounter was all planned before I was born, when I was doing my life planning, and he had volunteered to be one of my spirit guides. And he said this was all planned. Of course, once you're born, you forget everything about where you came from, the spirit side, and your life plan, and so on. But it was all planned beforehand. So I said to him, well, why did you happen to choose me to be a messenger? And he said, well, you're just one of many messengers that I have. I have a lot of them throughout the world. And the reason I chose you was because we thought that because of some of your previous lives on Earth, that where you've had some experience in writing, that you might be a good candidate to write books about what I was going to tell you and our adventures together. So that was why I ended up being one of his messengers.
We have a question from the chat room here. Mad Max wants to know, how many times do you think the average person sidesteps their spirit guide? In other words, you were caught in his gaze, in Albert's gaze, when you encountered him. But a lot of people, they would have sidestepped and walked around him and walked past. Do you know what I mean? So I can see where he's coming from that. How he actually captured your focus, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. In such a dramatic fashion that there was no way that I was going to sort of walk around him, and he did it very effectively. In terms of other people, I mean, our spirit guides don't always show up as homeless people. They can show up in many other forms, and most often they don't physically manifest themselves. Most often they communicate to us through very subtle messages like flashes of intuition, whispers in our mind, gut feelings, coincidental events. So most of the time their communications are very subtle, and we have to be very astute about hearing and recognizing them. So in my case, he basically hit me over the head with a 2x4 to get my attention.
What was some of his main revelations to you?
Well, his main revelations, of course, and this would not be a surprise to either of you two, is that we're all eternal souls. We live forever, right. And there is no death. There's a death of our human bodies, but when that happens, our soul just leaves and passes back over to the spirit side where we came from. The spirit side is our true home, where we are beings of energy, created by the source. We're all connected to the source and connected to each other and everything else in the universe. So that's really who we are. In terms of why did I come here, he said, I chose to come here. I had the free choice when I was on the spirit side to decide, do I want to incarnate as a human on Earth or incarnate somewhere else or stay in the spirit side? And I chose, as we all did, every human who's here, we all chose to incarnate here to learn and experience things that we need for our evolution. And that's the sole reason. And prior to incarnating, we each prepared a life plan which set out the significant aspects of our new lives. Things like the place we'd be born, our names, the first language we'd learn, the identity of our parents, siblings, spouses, other relatives, friends, co-workers. And we did this for a very specific reason, to help us advance our evolution as souls by meeting challenges and learning lessons that we needed. And so it was all, the major points are planned beforehand. But he says our lives aren't predetermined because we have free will to make decisions and actions while we're here. And because we don't remember what's in our life plans, he says we often go way off course. But he said not to worry, because no matter how many wrong turns we make, we can never go wrong or become lost. We will always end up back on the spirit side after our physical bodies die. So he said it's really an adventure here, a learning adventure in this school called Earth, one that we chose for ourselves. And so by virtue of that, we should never, ever think of ourselves as a victim, because if we don't like what's happening in our lives, we created our lives beforehand, and we created, through the pre-birth planning, and we created our lives through the choices we made up to this point. And so, we're the authors of our own reality, and we should all recognize that. He says the source, God or the source, does not manipulate events on our planet. It does not make rules for us to follow. And at the end of the day, when we die, there's no judgment and there is no punishment, because there's no hell. We all go back to the spirit side.
Aren't we our own judges of ourselves? Don't we look and review and kind of go over what has taken place during this lifetime? And there's nobody else judges us but ourselves, and we can be the worst person to judge ourselves.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Sprinkles. Because what Albert's told me was that when we pass over, we end up, one of the first things we do back in the spirit side is have a life review, which is a very detailed review of everything that's happened in the life we just finished. And he says you can watch the whole thing, in any sort of order that you want, in fast motion, slow motion, whatever you choose, like watching a 3D movie. Mm-hmm. But the neat thing about the life review, he says, is that when you're going through this, you will get to hear the thoughts and feel the emotions of the people you interacted with during your life. So if you said something mean and cruel to a coworker during your life, when you're doing your life review, you actually get to feel their hurt and their dismay at your cruel words as you're saying them, which is really quite a learning tool. And the whole purpose of the life review is not to make you feel regretful or remorseful about what you did, because we all make mistakes. He says it's to help us learn, perhaps how to do things better in our next life. Yeah, and so in effect, Sprinkles, we do judge ourselves, but only in a very beneficial way. It's not to make ourselves feel guilty about our mistakes. It's just so that we can say, okay, next time I know what I'm going to try to do better. And that's a learning tool when we plan our next incarnation.
Wow. But we all, it seems that everybody speaks about the veil lifting, but when we have these plans already set, and we come and we're born into this earth, everything's wiped away. We don't have these things that are there that are naturally there. It's like, no, that's hidden from us, and we have to proceed by what is life itself is given to us. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's kind of like wiped away. They clear off what we're intentionally trying to do, but we have to kind of learn how to work with it, with each other, and the guidance and help and direction of our environment's influences.
That's exactly right, Sprinkles. And you're right. Once we're born, we don't remember where we came from. We don't remember who we really are, and we don't remember what was in our life plan or that we even had one. And that's very deliberate. And that's one of the reasons that the Earth School is one of the toughest ones in the universe, according to Albert, is because of that forgetfulness that's very deliberate as part of the incarnation process. And when I said to him, well, wouldn't it just be much easier if I could remember what I'd put in my life plan and what I had intended for me to do during my life? It'll take away all the uncertainty. And he said, yeah, it would, but it would make it too easy. He said it would be like a teacher giving her students the questions and answers to a final exam before the exam. What would there be no point in writing the exam? And so that's why we're given this forgetfulness once we're born. It basically means that we have to sort of rediscover who we are, and sometimes we're going to stumble along blindly trying to figure out what we should be doing in life. That's just part of the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what does Albert say about angels? Or like your guardian angel? Has he said anything about?
Yeah, guardian angels. We all have guardian angels, one or more, and their job is to watch over us and to make sure that we don't experience an untimely death before our souls are ready to leave. He says that no one dies by accident on Earth. We die when our souls are ready to leave the incarnation. Our souls make that decision. And so even though it may appear that somebody has died accidentally, like in a car crash on the freeway, he says that happened because that soul decided to use that as an exit point to leave this life. So where guardian angels come in is that he says, because there's so many people running around exercising their free wills, he says that it would be inevitable that during the clash of some of these free wills, that something may happen that your soul hadn't contemplated that could lead to a premature death of your physical body. That's when your guardian angels step in, and they basically work behind the scenes to make sure that you don't suffer a death before your soul is ready to leave. And so they could do things like send you strong messages, like someone who's about to board a plane for a flight may get a strong message that maybe they should change their plans, and it turns out that plane later crashes. That was your guardian angel saying, it's not your time to go. Right. Or they may physically manipulate events so that they might make sure that give you a flat tire on the way to the airport so you miss your plane. So there's a number of ways they can do that, and they basically work behind the scenes. Most people aren't aware of how many times they've been saved by their guardian angels. But they're always there, and they're there to help us get through this life in the manner that our soul wants to do so. And when their soul is ready to exit, then the guardian angels will step back and say, "Okay, if you want to die by an accident or terminal cancer or whatever, then away you go."
Okay, well, we're getting kind of close to time because you're only going to be with us on the first half of this show. So I want to touch on your second book, the Dancing Forever with Spirit. please tell us about that and some of the things that are the contents consist of.
Well, what happened after my first dialogue with Albert was that he disappeared for a few months, and then he next appeared in my life in a much different way. I was sleeping in my bed, and I woke up, and I saw this ghost-like ethereal figure standing in the doorway of my bedroom. And when it moved closer to me, I could see it was Albert, except he was in astral form.
Oh.
And he said, "I've come to take you on a series of astral trips to the spirit side and to other places in the universe, because I want you to write about what you see and what you hear when you speak to other souls." And he said, "I believe a picture is worth 1,000 words, so I'm actually going to take you and show you things that you should write about." So then he literally reached out, grabbed my astral hand, pulled my astral body out of my physical body, which was still laying in bed, sound asleep in bed, and then he just, I followed him. We rose up through the ceiling, up through the clouds, hovered at a point high above our planet, and then he took me through this shimmering doorway, which he says was the doorway to the spirit side. And so we floated through this doorway. I found myself standing in a beautiful meadow, just incredibly beautiful, indescribably beautiful, which was part of the spirit side. And we eventually walked up a small hill. At the bottom of the hill, I saw a group of souls waiting for me. And as we got closer, my heart skipped a beat, because it was my mother, my father, my brother, my grandparents, and various aunts and uncles who had already passed over. And even my little dog, Oscar, came running from behind the group with his tail wagging his whole body to give me a face licking. He was part of my welcoming party. And Albert said, "This is just a preview of what everyone will experience when their body dies and they cross over to the spirit side."
Well, we have another question from Mad Max. Do any souls stay on this side in spirit form, as in like the paranormal spirits that wander the earth for one reason or another? Do any of them actually just stay? Well, I would think so if the guides are actually coming in body form, I would think. I don't know, but what is your answer?
Well, yes, some souls will linger on the earth plane for a while after their physical bodies die. And most of the time it's because they're just a little confused and they haven't quite realized the fact that their physical bodies have died and that they need to transition over to the spirit side. So most of the time it's just a little bit of confusion. It often happens in a violent death, and they're not quite prepared to understand that they have physically died, or they may have strong feelings for people they have left behind, like children or spouses or whatever, and they feel an obligation to sort of hang around. But that's temporary. Temporary in a sense that it might last 200 years on the earth plane, which is just a blink of an eye on the spirit side. Eventually, those spirits' guides will come, take them by the hand, and lead them back over to the spirit side, where they will just be reacquainted with their old home. So yeah, there are some what people would call ghosts. Those are the spirits who are still kind of lingering around after their physical death.
Yeah.
Wow.
Who did you meet on the water planet Proteus, I guess, in your second book?
Who did I meet there? Well, I met a dolphin and a humpback whale. They looked exactly like the creatures that we have on Earth, and they said that it's because most of the sea life on our planet was originally seeded from sea life on Proteus. And they told me that they keep in telepathic contact with the dolphins and whales on Earth over many light years of distance, and they were quite distressed at what they heard from their cousins on Earth, because the dolphins and whales were lamenting the fact that they have been abused by humans over the centuries, being killed and trapped and imprisoned in water parks, so their cousins on Earth was quite distressed, and so these two on the planet Proteus said to me, "Please take back to your fellow humans the message from our cousins that they really want to live in harmony with humans, and they would really hope that someday we would stop the abuse of all those creatures."
Well, so you've also seen. Oh, I know we're running close to break time, and it's just about time for you to go. Yeah. I got to tell you, Garnet, you got to come back. You got to share more with us, because this is fascinating. I have so many questions for you. But please, for those that are listening on our on-demand, that means if they're not in here, they can't see it in the chat room, the links that we've been posting in there for you. But please tell them where they can contact you, and then we'll have to go to break.
Yeah, the best source of information about me and my books is my website, which is garnetschulhauser.com. That's hard to remember, but if you Google dancing on a stamp, you'll get to my website. And there's information about all my books. My email address is there, and I'd love to hear comments or questions from your listeners. There are buy links where you can click on it to buy books from all the popular online stores. And you can also dial into all my social media pages like Facebook and Google Plus and Twitter and LinkedIn and so on. So there's a wealth of information there. I encourage everyone to seek out my website.
Yes, please do. A fascinating journey. This man has a fascinating journey. Okay, so everybody stay right there. We'll be right back. And again, Garnet, thank you very, very much for sharing with us here today.
Yes, thank you very much.
And thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed it very much.
Right. We'll be back in a little bit.
Every time that you get undressed, I hear symphonies in my head. I wrote this song just looking at you. Oh, yeah, the drums they swing low, and the trumpets they go. And the trumpets they go. Yeah, the trumpets they go. Is it weird that I hear violins whenever you're gone? Whenever you're gone. Is it weird that your ass remind me of a Kanye West song? Kanye West song. Is it weird that I hear trumpets when you're turning me on? Turning me on. Is it weird that your bra remind me of a Katy Perry song? Every time that you get undressed, I hear symphonies in my head. I wrote this song just looking at you. Oh, yeah, the drums they swing low, and the trumpets they go. And they playing for you, girl. And the trumpets they go. Yeah. Yeah, the trumpets they go. Every time that you moan, oh yeah. Is it weird that your eyes remind me of a Coldplay song? Coldplay song. Is it weird that I hear trumpets when you're turning me on? Is it weird that your bra remind me of a Katy Perry song? Every time that you get undressed, I hear symphonies in my head. I wrote this song looking at you. Oh yeah. Every time you get undressed, every time that you get undressed, symphonies in my head, symphonies in my head. I wrote this song looking at you. Yeah, the drums they swing low, and the trumpets they go. Acapella on them. There you go. Oh yeah. Come on, come on, come on. There you go. KLF is gonna rock you.
Are you interested in the top 40 songs from the 80s and 90s and how they tie into the current astrological chart? Then tune in to the Indigo Weekly Top 40 each week on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, only on the Paramania Radio Network.
If you want to learn about how paranormal investigators use technology, what we use, and how it works, then check out Tech Time with Brock and Doc every Sunday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Only on the Paramania Radio Network. Welcome to the all-new Paramania Radio.
Don't go by the book. Think like a pirate.
Hello, everyone. This is Peg Jones, and we're back from our break. It was great having Garnet on our show tonight, and I thought we would, Sprinkles and I would each do a little teaching. Tonight I'm going to talk about something that is very relevant to this month, which is Valentine's Day. And I don't know how many of you know, but there are angels that we call the romance angels, and we also have archangels that can help us with our relationships too. So I thought I would start a little bit to talk about that. Next week I am going to have, or we're going to have Lisa Mastercola on our show, who is my co-host on the cable TV show that we have started, and we did a whole half hour on the romance angels. So I think after we interview Lisa, I think we're going to talk a little bit more about them too, maybe get a little bit more into them. But I thought I would kind of talk about the two types. There's the archangels. There's at least 5 romance angels, or archangels that we consider like the romance angels. And then there's the cherub angels, and believe it or not, they are real, and they're kind of like the size of a little 4-year-old, kind of chubby, and they're kind of giddy, and they're kind of they're very musical, and they like to sing. And the archangels that are considered the romance angels are Archangel Shemuel, of course, and Archangel Raphael, Archangel Michael, Archangel Jophiel, and I think Archangel Raguel, Raguel. And so tonight I thought I'd talk about Archangel Shemuel, and maybe also Archangel Raphael too. Archangel Shemuel is the angel of relationships. He helps you, to have harmony in your relationships. He also helps us to see the other person's perspective, because I think sometimes we don't always see the other person's perspective, and he helps us with that. And he also, helps us to even, find a relationship if we're looking for a relationship too, because he is known as the angel of lost things. So why not, relationships that we're looking for, or that maybe have been broken. And the other angel, Archangel Raphael, he helps us like with maybe some healing, that we may have to deal with, as far as a relationship that has passed, or a relationship, or even our own personal healing, maybe from something that didn't work out, and he kind of helps to heal us, to kind of get us ready for a new relationship. Because he mentions a lot, that you don't really want to bring like old energy from relationships that may have had an effect on you. So he helps you with healing on that. So that's, I think, all I'm going to say right now, but I'm open up to a few questions if anyone has any questions, and we'll continue this next week.
So what you just said down with the angels, to me, it's almost as if it's saying not to judge it, but to understand it and to kind of work with it and move forward again. Of letting old relationships go, but not to judge them, but to move forward, to learn from it, and move forward.
Well, I mean, I think if we dwell on things, I mean, and we all probably have at one point or another, but when you think about it, what good does that really do?
Yeah.
It's kind of like just asking the angels to kind of remove that, maybe hurt or bitterness or whatever, and to just so that you can move on, and you can, begin new relationships on a good foot, so to speak. And it helps you to grow too. It doesn't keep you back. It doesn't keep you stuck in, that hurt feeling or upset feeling, anger feeling. So, and he really helps you with that too, and they all do. I mean, and next week we'll talk about Michael and how he kind of helps us, and the other two also. So,
very good. Thank you, Peg.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm learning something here, and I didn't know that the angels actually would come in and do that. I mean, usually you call on angels in emergencies and stuff, so I really didn't think of them in that term, to reach out and call on them to help me within a relationship. But that's interesting. Okay, what I'm going to address here is in the palmistry. We did some of the special markings, but now we're going to be going into 3 of the major lines, and the 3 major lines are the lifeline, the headline, and the heart line. And today we're just going to talk about the lifeline at the first major line in the palm of your hand. And this is a picture that'll show you exactly where that is. And it's the biggest line that curves up around your thumb. Okay. And the lifeline is, it's best if it's long and clearly marked. It shows good health and vitality. It shows how strong of a spirit or the soul is in the hand itself. And it all depends, too, on the color and the depth of the line. Okay, and whether it's frail or it's thick and heavy, that kind of thing. The lifeline is also good when short and strong. Such a line can show vitality and drive and the ability to overcome health problems, if there's any. In a square hand, it could possibly show, a square hand is also another way of looking at a hand in the different shapes. But in a square hand, it would probably show a short but strong line, and that would show good chances of a long life. So it doesn't matter if the lifeline is short or strong. There's so much more to look into the line itself that will determine, and the other aspects within the palm that will determine one's length of life or determination and willpower. It combines a whole bunch of different stuff with it as you look at it. A double, triple lifeline. Okay, a doubled or a triple lifeline. I usually call them sister lines, but they're also very good indications for the vitality, again, of the person, that and the hand in which you're looking at, whether the left or the right. these extra lines are called vitality lines and are considered a lucky marking. Again, I call them sister lines, but they may also represent that someone close to you, whether an individual that is living or has passed on, is watching over you during that certain span of time. And next show, I'll go into the other two major lines, and then I'm going to show you how to do a time span on the palm itself. But back to the lifeline, a long lifeline that is very thin and wavery and is poor vitality shows many changes as well as the possibility of a variable health life. Okay, things dealing with the health.
I mean, things that are that have been problems.
Yes, like yeah, with other signs, you can just about pinpoint what the health problem may be. Okay, yeah. And as you get to know the lines and you start looking at them in your own hand or in other people's hands, you're going to notice different things that are taking place there.
So does that like through the islands and the circles and all that?
Yes, yes. Those special markings will pinpoint something or an area, but it's also like if you look at the lifeline in the picture that is shown here, it shows a full flat color. Let's put it that way. Okay, but on some people's the lifelines, it can be very, very thin, like a very fine line, and then open up thicker as it goes on. See, and usually the way we read it is from the inside of the thumb where the line comes out and then down to the bottom towards the wrist.
So is that the beginning of your life up top and then?
Yes, okay. Yes, and as you go down to the bottom, that's near as you get older. Okay, so along and curving around the base of the thumb at the wrist. Okay, if it actually curves down under there, the line will show a lot of activity. It indicates a lot of activity in old age. Okay, if the line is short and shallow, it just shows that it's a life that is controlled by another's will. Okay, that to me, to relate with it, it's like saying that somebody can be incarcerated and somebody is controlling their life, allowing them to do certain things certain ways at certain times. It's a very controlling being in controlled kind of life. So a short and shallow one lifeline will indicate that this person is being controlled by another or others. Okay, not necessarily themselves. They're not that strong-willed. Okay, and if the line swoops in a wide semicircle around the base of the thumb, it gives strength and enthusiasm and vastly improves the love life. Okay, but there's other signs, just don't go by that, but because there's other signs that will also indicate just how sexually active one can be, and that's with the girdle of Venus sign, which is one that we will do way down the line from now. But it's when you get to know the lines and work with them, you will see different things within them. It's really quite fascinating. And when looking at other people's hands, first seeing it in your own and looking at it in somebody else's, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Okay, and if the lifeline is very straight and clings very close to the thumb, it limits the love nature and often shows one who lives a very careful life. Okay, they can even be secluded or a recluse kind of person. They can even live with a lot of people, but they're the ones that are a quiet person that lives that goes off by themselves. So they're very careful on what they do and how they do it and with whom they do it. Okay, when the lifeline crosses the middle of the palm. Okay, now the middle of the palm would be coming a little bit near the end of the middle finger on the far side, neck closest to the ring finger. If it clings close to the thumb, it limits the love nature. When the lifeline crosses the middle of the palm and reaches toward the base of the palm, opposite the thumb, it means that travel will affect this person's life. They will be traveling because see, the travel line usually comes over past the middle finger, the travel line. And the lifeline, if it curves over that far, and it can be in the zone where the travel line is, and that in itself will tell you that this person is going to be doing a lot of traveling in their lifetime.
And where's the travel line?
I'm not going to go into that yet because we're just focusing on the lifeline. So the travel line would be about, if you look, the ring finger, if you put a straight line down the ring finger, down to your wrist, okay, that area, that straight line there, that's where the travel line will come in. So if your lifeline curves way out and goes on past the middle finger and just close enough to that ring finger marking, then that person definitely will be doing some traveling. I'm not going to go into special markings this one because I don't want to over influence you, but let's see what we have here, and we have any questions in here. Could the old energy of feeling come from just this life, or could it also be left over from other lives? Okay. Yeah, Mama D, you have a very busy, you have a very interesting palm. So, yeah, I got to get with you and kind of give you a one-on-one with that. And I know I was supposed to do that, and I didn't realize I didn't, and I'm so sorry, but we will get back to that. But, yeah, very interesting, your hands are. Mad Max, your question, could this old energy or feeling come from just a life? Well, the way that you can actually find out is there's two different readings that can take place. And in your left hand, that shows what you wanted to do. That's what before you came into this world, you already had that set planned, and you want to do this and be like this and have this many siblings and whatever it might have been. That is what you had planned to do. But in your right hand, it's going to show you your willpower. So I would say that you'd look more to your left hand and finding out just what is taking place there, and then have your right hand read, because then you will see if you overcame that or if you still need to work on that area that's in there. But the palms are really quite interesting, and I think you'll enjoy it as we go along as you're learning. So right now we just learned about the lifeline. Yeah, well, no, I want to get with you because I did see some very fascinating stuff there. It was interesting, Mama D. Mama D had said to me, no worry, but yeah, she did send me her palms, and I started to read them, but I never got to finish off and actually meet with her. But the palm here's another little thing that you can do and check out right now because we have just a few minutes left. But on the bottom of your wrist there, as you can see in the palmistry picture here, and on those lines on the wrist that are going across the lines, now Maggie knows this because Maggie's a palm reader as well, but those are called luck bracelets, okay? And I'm self-taught in this, so I have to go with what I'm coming up with. And all those lines, if you have more than, say, 3 lines there, that it does indicate you are very lucky in this life. And one wrist will show different than the other wrist. So if it's in your left hand, you were supposed to be that lucky. If it's in your right hand, you chose to have luck work for you. Okay, so one is what you would like, and the other is what you have to choose to deal with. So look at that and see how many bracelets you have. And I'm talking about the little lines too. There's some really light lines. And also if the line on your wrist, if you have a couple of them and like one seems to break off and not continue around the rest of the wrist, well, that could just mean that that you do have luck for you that comes your way, but it will come in at the very last minute, okay? Because like something stops it. It makes you kind of work for it, makes you kind of earn for it. And that's one of the other things that you can look for.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Because I have my second one, like there's another line just above it, like it like splits off. What does that mean? When it kind of when it has like one, it's like one line, but then there's a little bit of a split off, like on the side.
That can indicate that when you were younger, you were very, very lucky. You had things there. You had things provided for you there. But when it's as it gets closer on the bottom, away from the bottom of the palm of your hand,
Yeah.
okay, and the break is after that thick one, and then there's a break. Well, that means that as you get older, you're going to have to learn to stand on your own. It's not going to be given to you anymore. Okay, so we just got a few minutes left here, and again, if he listens back on it, I'd like to thank Garnet Schulhauser, because he's absolutely fascinating, and I intend to have him back. I'd like to thank Dr. Dave for producing and directing us, and he's doing his awesome job as he usually does. Peg, I want to thank you, and I just want to give a shout out to the people in the chat room: Indy, Mama D, Mad Max KLF, Vicky Johns, hello sweetie, and Maggie Renee, hello girl. Okay, and guest too. So Peg, do you have any parting words? Who are we having next week?
We're having Lisa Mastercola, who is an angel intuitive in, she actually was in the town that I lived in before I moved a year and a half ago. And she's an angel intuitive. She is also a healer. She works with integrated energy healing, IET, and she's also a Reiki master, and she's also an author. She wrote a book for children's meditations, young children, and so we can talk about that too. And she was also a former teacher. She was a first grade teacher for like 13 years. So and wife and mother, and yeah, she's very interesting, and so we'll talk with her next week.
Yeah, well, we're all for giving out things that are
readings.
Yes, maybe some readings as well. Yeah, that'll be cool. Yeah, we're all for giving out information that we hope that you can be open-minded enough to see in a different light, the view, just like our song, our intro song states, because the possibilities are endless with us. It really is. And I'm not saying us as in the weavers. I'm saying us as
people.
Yes.
Yeah, as earth, as people on the earth plane.
Yes, and we're hoping to bring some more eye-opening kind of things to you here. Again, that's it, folks. We're at the end of time, and again, thank you all for being here, supporting us, and showing your interest, and we'll see you again next week.